But some truths, once seen, can never be unseen.
If you've ever loved someone so much you ignored the little cracks, you'll understand why I stayed as long as I did. I'm Lena, and for almost 3 years I thought I was building a life with a man named Mason. He was charming, dependable, on paper, and just convincing enough to make me doubt my own instincts. But one night, in a crowded rooftop bar, he introduced me as just a friend, and the woman standing beside him, his coworker, reacted in a way that told me everything without saying a word. That moment didn't just hurt, it changed me. Because when someone tries to erase you in public, you either shrink or you rise. I used to think love was supposed to feel safe. Not perfect, but steady. Like the kind of steady you can build a whole future on. That's what I thought I had with Mason. For almost 3 years. We lived together in a cozy apartment outside Atlanta, sharing groceries, streaming shows, and talking about someday like it was guaranteed. Mason had this way of looking at me when he said, "You're my girl," like it was a promise. I'd laugh and say, then act like it. He always didn't till he didn't. That Friday started like any other. Mason came home from work in a good mood, loosening his tie while he kissed my cheek. "My team's going out tonight," he said. "Rooftop place downtown. You should come." I raised an eyebrow. "With your co-workers?" "Yeah," he said, too quickly. "It'll be fun. Plus I want them to meet you." I tried not to smile too hard, so I'm finally getting introduced as the girlfriend. He chuckled, pulling me close. "Yeah, always my girlfriend." Speaking about that answer didn't land right, but I brushed it off. I changed outfits twice and curled my hair like it mattered. I told myself I was being silly. Mason had never given me a real reason to doubt him. He had minor flaws, forgetting to text back, working late, always needing space when he was stressed, but nothing that screamed betrayal. At least that's what I thought. We drove downtown with the windows cracked, Atlanta's warm night air brushing my face. Mason hummed along to the radio like he didn't have a care in the world. I watched him, thinking, he's really happy. Maybe I've been overthinking. When we got to the rooftop bar, the elevator opened to loud music, warm lights, and groups of people laughing over cocktails. Mason stepped out first, and I followed, smoothing my dress, trying to look confident. I reached for his hand automatically, and that's when he slipped away. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't like he yanked his arm out. He just didn't take my hand, like he didn't notice, like it wasn't natural anymore. He scanned the room, spotting people, then turned and said, "Oh, there they are," and started walking. I hurried beside him, trying to keep up in heels, and forced a laugh. "Slow down, bae." He didn't answer right away. He just kept walking. I tried not to let the first stings sink in. Then a woman appeared like she'd been waiting. She had glossy dark hair, a white blazer over a fitted dress, and a smile that looked practiced. She rushed up to Mason with energy that didn't belong to a coworker greeting. She threw her arms around him, pressing her cheek to his. "Mason," she squealed. Finally, he laughed, and it was the kind of laugh he saved for me. "Savannah," he said, like saying her name made him proud. I froze. My heart did that thing where it tries to climb up your throat, because the hug was too familiar, too tight, too possessive. Savannah pulled back and kept one hand on his arm. Then her eyes slid to me. Mason's smile tightened. He cleared his throat. "Oh, this is Lena," he said quickly. I waited for the rest. Girlfriend, partner, the woman I live with, the woman I love. But Mason blinked and added, "Just a friend." My face stayed still. My smile stayed on. But inside, something shattered so quietly that only I heard it. "Just a friend," I repeated, like it tasted bitter. Savannah's expression changed for half a second. It wasn't a full reaction, but it was enough. Her smile froze, like her brain had to reset. Her eyes flicked to my hand, empty of any ring, then back to Mason like she'd been caught off guard, like she'd expected me to be someone else, or maybe no one at all. And that tiny moment told me more than any confession could. Single quotes. Vida Savannah recovered quickly, forcing a bright laugh. "Oh, nice to meet you, Lena." I shook her hand. "To meet you too." Mason glanced between us like he was hoping we'd both just play along. "Savannah's on my team," he said. "She's basically the one who keeps everyone organized." Savannah leaned closer to him. "He makes it sound like I'm his babysitter." Mason grinned. "You kind of are." I watched their body language like my life depended on it. The way she stood just a little too close. The way he didn't step away, The way his eyes lingered. I tried to interrupt the rising panic with logic. Maybe she's just friendly. Maybe I'm being insecure. But then one of Mason's coworkers walked up, a tall guy with glasses and a loud voice. "Mason," he shouted, slapping his back. "You made it." Mason laughed. "Wouldn't miss it." The guy looked at me. "And who's this?" Mason hesitated. "Just a beat." Then he said, "This is Lena. She's a friend." The guy nodded politely, but Savannah's eyes flashed again, quick and sharp. I forced myself to speak. "Hi, I'm Lena. I actually live with Mason." The words were casual, but they landed heavy. Mason's head snapped toward me. "Yeah," he said, too loud. "We're roommates." "Roommates." My stomach flipped. I stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. "Roommates," I repeated. He laughed awkwardly. "You know what I mean? We share a place." Savannah's lips parted slightly like she'd been punched by surprise. Her eyes flicked to Mason again, and this time I saw something else, anger, maybe, or fear. I took a sip of the drink someone handed me just to keep my hands from shaking. Mason leaned in, voice low. "Babe, don't make it weird." I blinked. "I'm not making it weird. I'm just here." He gave me a warning smile. "Good." And that was the moment I realized he wasn't worried about me being uncomfortable. He was worried about me saying the wrong thing. We mingled with his coworkers, and I tried to act normal. I smiled at jokes. I asked people about their jobs. I told myself I would talk to Mason later, privately, because blowing up in public wasn't my style. But Savannah kept watching me. Every time I turned, she was there, eyes tracking me like she was measuring my place in Mason's life. At one point, I went to the bar for a refill, and she followed. She leaned against the counter beside me. "So, you and Mason are friends?" I smiled tightly. "We're together." Her eyes widened, then narrowed. "Together." "Yes," I said, holding her gaze. "For almost 3 years." Savannah laughed, but it sounded hollow. "Wow, that's amazing." I tilted my head. "Why is that amazing?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. "No reason." I didn't let her off the hook. "You seemed surprised." She forced another smile. "Mason doesn't really talk about his personal life at work." I swallowed the urge to say, maybe because his personal life is a mess. Instead, I said, "Well, now you know." She nodded, then sipped her drink, like she needed it to stay upright. "Yeah, now I know." When we walked back to the group, Mason glanced at us. "Everything good?" "Great," I said. Savannah said nothing. She just looked at him like she was trying to warn him without speaking. The night went on, but I couldn't enjoy it. Mason barely touched me. He didn't put his arm around my waist. He didn't introduce me proudly. He didn't even say my name much. It was like I was an accessory. He couldn't figure out how to wear it in front of them. On the drive home, I stared out the window, silent. Mason sighed. "You okay?" I turned to him. "Why did you call me? Just a friend." He laughed like I was being dramatic. "Because it's work, people. Lena, it's not that deep." "It felt deep," I said. "It felt like you were hiding me." "I'm not hiding you," he snapped. Then softer, "I just don't like mixing work and personal stuff." "But Savannah hugged she like she's your wife," I said before I could stop myself. But Mason tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "Don't start." "I'm not starting anything," I said, voice shaking. "I'm asking why she looked like she'd seen a ghost when you introduced me." He exhaled sharply. "You're reading too much into it." I stared at him, trying to decide if he believed his own lie. When we got home, he went straight to the bathroom like he needed distance. I stood in the kitchen, hearing the shower turn on, feeling my whole world tilt. I wasn't sure what the truth was yet, but I knew one thing for certain. Savannah's face wasn't the face of a coworker meeting a friend. It was the face of a woman realizing she wasn't the only one. And that's when I knew I couldn't ignore my gut anymore. I didn't sleep much that night. Mason curled up beside me like nothing happened, like he hadn't erased me in front of a room full of strangers. He even reached for my waist in his sleep, pulling me close, and for a second my body wanted to relax the way it always did, but my mind was on fire. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Savannah's frozen smile. I saw Mason's quick introduction. I heard the word friend like it was a slapdot by morning. Mason was cheerful again. He whistled while making coffee, kissed my forehead, and said, "You want pancakes?" I stared at him. "Since when do you make pancakes?" He grinned. "Since I'm trying to be a good boyfriend." My stomach twisted at the word. boyfriend. He kept smiling. What's wrong now? I swallowed hard. Nothing. He handed me a mug. Good, because I've got a busy day. Of course, he did. I watched him move around our kitchen like he owned the space, like he hadn't just made me feel like a stranger in his world. And the more normal he acted, the more my suspicion grew. If he truly thought he did nothing wrong, why was he trying so hard to smooth things over? After breakfast, he grabbed his phone and keys. I'll be back later, he said. Where are you going? I asked, keeping my voice casual. He didn't miss a beat. What stuff? Probably late. I nodded. Okay. He leaned in, kissed my cheek, then paused. Last night was fine, right? I don't want you holding on to it. I forced a smile. It's fine. He relaxed, like my words were permission. Good. Love you. The door clicked shut behind him, and I stood there for a long moment, staring at nothing. Then I did something I swore I'd never do. I walked into our bedroom, grabbed his spare charger from the nightstand, and realized his phone was still plugged in. My heart started pounding so hard it made my ears ring. I stared at the phone like it was a dangerous animal. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself I should respect his privacy. But privacy is a privilege you give someone who respects you. And Mason had introduced me as just a friend. I picked up the phone. My hands trembled. The screen lit up with his wallpaper us at the beach last summer, smiling like fools. For a second, I almost put it down, because what if I found something? What if it changed everything? Then I remembered Savannah's face. I typed in his passcode. I knew it because he'd never tried to hide it before. The phone unlocked like it was welcoming me into a world I wasn't meant to see. His texts looked normal. Group chats, work messages, memes from his brother. I almost felt relieved. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe Savannah was just weird. Then I noticed something at the top of the screen, archived. I clicked, and there she was. Savannah. My throat went dry. The latest message from her read, last night was messy. Who is she? My stomach dropped. I scrolled up and my whole body went cold. The thread was long. Weeks. Months. It wasn't just flirting. It was daily conversation. Pet names, private jokes, late night plans. There were heart emojis and I miss you messages. There were photos not explicit, but intimate enough. A picture of Mason's hand on her thigh. A selfie of Savannah in Mason's hoodie. Message from Mason. Can't wait to see you tonight. I pressed my hand to my mouth to keep from making a sound. My mind tried to deny it. Maybe it was old. Maybe it was a joke, but the timestamps were recent. Yesterday, last week, last month. I took screenshots of everything. My fingers moved like they belonged to someone else. I emailed them to myself, created a folder, and labeled it proof. Then I put the phone back exactly how it was, down to the angle on the nightstand. I stood there, breathing hard, staring at the wall. I wasn't imagining it. Mason was having an affair. The betrayal felt physical, like someone had who punched me and left a bruise I couldn't see. But my tears wouldn't come yet. Chalk held them back. Instead, I did what I always did when I felt unsafe. I got quiet. When Mason came home later, he acted like nothing had happened. He dropped his keys, kicked off his shoes, and said, I'm starving. Want to order Thai? Watched him like I'd never seen him before. Sure, he said. He sat beside me on the couch, scrolling his phone, and I wondered how someone could lie so easily. He glanced at me. You're quiet. Long day, I said. He smiled. Yeah, same. Then he leaned in. You know I love you. Right, my chest burned. Do you? I asked before I could stop myself. His smile faltered. Of course I do. I nodded slowly. He relaxed again, like he'd passed another test. Over the next 2 days, I watched him closely. And once you know someone is lying, you start noticing every little thing. He took his phone into the bathroom. He turned it face down on the table. He stepped outside to take calls. He stayed late at work, but his shirt smelled like a different Colin one he didn't wear around me. On the third day, he came home early, showered, and changed into his nicest button-down, the one I'd bought him for our anniversary. I watched him button it up in the mirror. Big meeting? I asked. He didn't look at me, just extra work. He sprayed cologne, the expensive one he only used for special nights, and my stomach flipped. Extra work with cologne, I said lightly. He laughed. What? I can't smell good. I forced a laugh too. Sure. He kissed my forehead. Don't wait up. As soon as he left, I grabbed my keys. I followed him. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. One kept a few cars behind, trying not to be obvious. Mesa drove like someone who knew exactly where he was going. He didn't go toward his office. He didn't go toward Annie's restaurant we liked. He drove toward a quiet townhouse complex on the other side of the city. My heart pounded. He parked in a visitor spot, checked his surroundings, and walked toward a townhouse with a red door. Then he unlocked it, like he belonged there. I sat across the street, frozen, watching him disappear inside. The air left my lungs. I felt like I'd been dropped into someone else's nightmare. Because this wasn't a quick fling. This wasn't casual. He had access to her home. He had a second life. I stared at the red door until my vision blurred. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Mason. Running late. Love you. I stared at the message, my hands shaking. It was lying to me in real time. And as I sat there, watching the townhouse window lights glow, a new feeling rose in me, one I'd never felt before. Not sadness, not fear. Resolve. Because if Mason thought he could hide me, lie to me, and erase me, he had no idea what I was capable of. I drove home like I was carrying a secret that weighed 100 pounds. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my chest felt hollow. I didn't cry yet. I couldn't. Tears felt too soft for what was happening. What I felt was clarity. The kind that only comes after the last excuse dies. When I walked into our apartment, it looked the same as always. Our throw blankets on the couch, the photos on the shelf, the little notes Mason used to leave on the fridge. It all felt like a set from a show that had been canceled without warning. I sat at the kitchen table and opened my laptop, pulling up the folder labeled Proof. Screenshots, dates, messages. Each one was a brick in the wall between us. I kept hearing his voice from the bar. Just a friend. And Savannah's face, frozen, startled, exposed. I knew I couldn't confront him the way he expected. If I cried, he'd call me dramatic. If I yelled, he'd call me crazy. If I begged, he'd call me needy. Mason was the kind of man who collected power by making women doubt themselves. So I decided I wouldn't give him that. I started planning. I remembered Mason always talking about his promotion. It wasn't just a raise, it was status. It was the thing he bragged about, the thing he said would finally make him respected. His manager, Mr. Collins, took professionalism seriously. Mason was constantly reminding me, my reputation matters at work. Fine, if his reputation mattered so much, then he should have protected it. I opened a notepad on my phone and wrote a simple list. What I knew, what I needed, and what I wanted. I didn't want violence. I didn't want destruction. I wanted truth. I wanted accountability. And I wanted my dignity back. That's when I got my first twist. One. I wasn't expecting a message popped up on my phone from an unknown number. Hi, this is Savannah, we need to talk. My heart slammed against my ribs. I stared at the screen. How did she get my number? Did Mason give it to her? Did she look me up? I typed back. About what? Her reply came fast. About Mason. I didn't. No, you were his girlfriend. I read it twice, then I wrote, he lives with me. 3 dots appeared. Then, oh my God. I sat back, stunned, because Savannah wasn't texting me to threaten me. She sounded shaken. I asked, what did he tell you I was? Her response came slow, like she was ashamed. He said you were his friend. He said you were someone who wouldn't let him move on. I laughed, but it came out bitter. That's Ritz. Then she sent the message that made my blood turn to ice. I think he's been telling both of us different stories, and I think he might be doing this to more than just us. But hands went cold. I wrote, what do you mean? She replied, I found messages on his iPad. Other women, not just me. I stared at that line until my eyes hurt. Mason wasn't just cheating. He was juggling. That was the twist that flipped my anger into something sharper. Because if he was lying to multiple women, then his behavior wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. Savannah asked, can we meet? I'm sorry, I swear I didn't know. I hesitated. Then I said, yes, tomorrow, coffee shop near Piedmont Park, noon. I spent the rest of the night rehearsing how to stay calm. I didn't want to fight Savannah. I wanted the truth. And if she was willing to give it, I'd listen. The next day, Savannah walked in wearing sunglasses even though it was cloudy. She looked smaller than she had at the bar. less confident, more human. She slid into the booth across from me, Lena. I nodded. Savannah, she pulled off her sunglasses, and her eyes were red. I'm so sorry I didn't soften. How long? She swallowed. 6 months. My throat tightened. And he told you what? She looked down. He said he was basically single. That he lived alone. That he didn't want anything serious because his last relationship was complicated. I stared at her. Complicated meaning me. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I didn't know. I swear. When he introduced you as just a friend, I thought he had a friend he was trying to impress. Then you said you lived together. And she shook her head. I felt sick. I held my coffee cup like it anchored me. You said there were other women? She nodded quickly. Yes. I saw messages with names I didn't recognize. He called one Bree, another Kay. He had different nicknames for all of us, like he was managing a schedule. I clenched my jaw. Did he bring them to work events too? She hesitated. He brought me. He told me it was safe because he kept his personal life separate. I laughed without humor. Except when it's convenient. Savannah leaned forward. I ended it. I told him I didn't want to see him again. I studied her. Did you? Or did he just say the right thing? Her eyes widened. No, I'm done. I blocked him. I believed her more than I expected because she looked genuinely hurt. And for the first time, I saw her as another person Mason had used. Savannah wiped her cheeks. What are you going to do? I paused, then said, I'm going to tell the truth. She nodded. He deserves it. I leaned in. I'm planning something. At dinner, with his coworkers. With you. Savannah blinked. Are you serious? Yes, I said. He's about to get promoted. He cares about that more than he cares about me. So I'm going to show everyone who he really is. Savannah swallowed. What do you need from me? I looked at her carefully. I need you to come. I need you to act normal. And I need you to be honest if someone asks. She nodded slowly. Okay, I'll come. For the next week, I played the role of Mason's trusting partner. I laughed at his jokes. I asked about his day. I kissed him goodbye. Every time he told me he was working late, I just smiled and said, okay, babe. Inside, I was counting down. I sent invites to his coworkers for a celebration dinner at Mason's favorite restaurant. I told them I wanted to support him before his big promotion review. People loved the idea. They RSVP'd quickly. I even made a little group chat for coordination. Boffenze saw the guest list and froze. Savannah's coming. I smiled sweetly. Of course. She's your coworker. Why wouldn't she? He forced a laugh. No, it's fine. I just didn't expect it. I tilted my head. Why is there a problem? His eyes flashed, but he shook his head. No, no problem. I watched him swallow his fear. The night of the dinner, Mason dressed up like he was walking into a spotlight. He checked his hair 3 times, adjusted his watch, and said, You didn't have to do all this. I smiled. I wanted to. He kissed my cheek. You're amazing. I almost laughed at the restaurant. His coworkers arrived smiling, excited, praising Mason, clinking glasses. Savannah arrived last, slipping into her seat with a tense smile. Mason's eyes widened when he saw her, but he couldn't react without making it obvious. Mr. Collins raised his glass. To Mason, a strong candidate for team lead. Everyone cheered. Mason beamed. Thank you. That means a lot. I sat quietly, waiting. When dessert menus came out and the mood was warm and celebratory, I stood up slowly. Mason's smile faltered. Lena, I lifted my glass. I just want to say something. The table turned toward me, and Mason's face went pale the moment he saw me pull out my phone. I didn't scream. I didn't slam my glass down. I didn't call Mason names. I just smiled like I was hosting the moment he'd created. I want to toast Mason, I said calmly, because he's been keeping secrets so well. The table laughed lightly at first, like they thought I was making a playful joke. Mason's eyes widened, and he whispered, Vina, what are you doing? I kept my voice steady. I'm being honest. Mr. Collins smiled politely. Secrets? Sounds serious? I nodded. It is. Mason stood halfway, reaching for my arm. Sit down. I stepped back. No. Savannah's hands were folded tightly in her lap. She wouldn't look at Mason. That alone told the room something was wrong. I lifted my phone and connected it to the small screen the restaurant used for special events. Mason had bragged about it before, saying, This place is classy. They even have screens for presentations. He'd thought it was impressive. Tonight, it was useful. The first screenshot appeared. Mason texting Savannah, "Can't wait to see you tonight." The date was from 3 weeks ago an evening. He'd told me he had extra work. The room went silent out. Someone cleared their throat. "Is that Mason?" a coworker asked. Mason stammered, "That's private." I clicked to the next screenshot. Savannah asking, "Who is she?" followed by Mason replying, "Just a friend, don't worry." A murmur rippled through the table. Mr. Collins set his glass down. "Mason, what is this?" Mason's face was red. This is a misunderstanding." I kept going. Another screenshot showed Mason calling Savannah baby. Then another where he told her he was basically single. Then one more, a photo of Savannah wearing his HOODIE. Savannah flinched. A coworker whispered, "Oh my God." Mason snapped, "Stop, Lena, stop." I looked at him and smiled sadly. "You didn't stop. Why should I?" Mr. Collins stood. His voice was controlled but cold. "Mason, step outside with me now." Mason tried to laugh, tried to shrug it off like it was all dramatic nonsense. "Come on, sir, this is personal." "It shouldn't be." Mr. Collins cut him off. "It becomes professional when you bring workplace relationships into public settings and misrepresent yourself." Outside, Mason looked around, desperate for support, but all he saw was judgment. He stood slowly and followed Mr. Collins to the door. The moment Mason left the table, Savannah spoke, voice shaking. "He told me she was nobody." Every head turned to her. Savannah swallowed hard and looked at me. "I'm sorry." I held her gaze. "He told me you were nobody too." Savannah's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know, I swear." A woman from Mason's team, Kendra, leaned back and said, "Mason's been acting shady for months." Another guy muttered, "This is why HR has policies." Someone else whispered, "He's done." I sat down slowly, my heart racing, my hands finally trembling now that it was happening. I'd planned everything. I'd prepared for chaos, but feeling the room shift in real time was different. Savannah stood suddenly. "I'm leaving." I nodded. "I understand." As she walked away, she paused and looked back at the table. "For what it's worth, he lied to me too." Then she was gone. The dinner ended awkwardly after that. People made excuses, pushed back chairs, avoided my eyes like they didn't know whether to pity me or admire me. A few coworkers offered quiet support. Kendra touched my arm. "You didn't deserve that." I nodded. "Thank you." Another coworker said, "I'm sorry, Lena, if I'd known." I interrupted gently. "You didn't. That's the point." When I walked outside, Mason was near the valet stand, face tight with anger and panic. Mr. Collins was gone. Mason stepped toward me. "What did you do?" he hissed. I stared at him calmly. "I told the truth. You humiliated me." He snapped. I laughed softly. "No, you humiliated yourself. I just stopped covering it up." He ran a hand through his hair. "This could mess up my promotion." I blinked. "That's what you're worried about." Mason's mouth opened, then closed. He looked like he wanted to switch tactics. "Lena, please, he can talk about this at home." I shook my head. "There is no home." His eyes widened. "What?" "I'm done," I said simply. "I already packed." His face twisted. "You're being dramatic." I smiled. "You called me just a friend. That's not dramatic. That's a decision. And I'm finally honoring it." He reached for my wrist. "Don't do this." I stepped back. "Let go." He stared at me like he couldn't believe I was standing firm. "I've made a mistake." I shook my head. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. You've built a second life. That's not a mistake. That's betrayal." Mason's voice dropped. "Savannah meant nothing." I sighed. "That's even worse. Because you risked everything for nothing." He swallowed. "Please, Lena. We can fix this." I leaned in slightly, my voice calm but final. "You can't fix what you didn't value." I walked away before he could say anything else. The next morning, I got a call from Mason. I didn't answer. He texted, "We need to talk." I didn't respond. He called again. I blocked him. 2 days later, a mutual friend messaged me. "Did you hear? Mason's promotion got paused. HR is investigating." I didn't feel happy. I felt clear. Mason had wanted to keep everything separate. Work, love, lies, but secrets don't stay separate forever. They leak, they spill, they rot. A week later, Savannah messaged me. "I'm sorry again. I ended things. I'm in therapy." I didn't realize I was helping him hurt you, I replied. I appreciate you owning it. Take care of yourself. Then I moved on. I found a new apartment closer to my job. I rebuilt my mornings. I bought myself fresh flowers. I stopped waiting for someone else to choose me. And in the quiet weeks after the chaos, I realized something important. I didn't need revenge to heal. I needed truth, because the real karma wasn't Mason losing a promotion. It was Mason losing access to a woman who would have loved him honestly. And the moral is simple. If someone treats you like an option, believe them the first time and choose yourself. Asterisk. Looking back, I still feel the sting of that rooftop bar moment, the way Mason let go of my hand and introduced me like I was nothing. But I also feel proud, because that night forced me to stop ignoring what I already knew deep down. Sometimes, the biggest betrayal isn't the affair itself, it's being made to feel small, hidden, and replaceable. If you're listening to this and you've ever been called just a friend, when you know you're more, I hope you hear me clearly. Your love should never be a secret. And if someone can't claim you with pride, don't beg them to. Walk away with your head high, because the right person won't hide you, they'll honor you.